You ever wonder how the U.S. Supreme Court decides what is and is not constitutional? Well, fortunately, the Supreme Court justices have given us a wonderful set of little tests to find out, and I am going to teach them to you. I'm going to tell you about the standards of review. The standards of review are tests that the Supreme Court applies in order to figure out whether a particular law has violated the Constitution or not. In this video, I'm going to tell you what the standards of review are and why we use the standards of review. And then I'm going to make another video where I tell you how they're used and when they're used. Now remember, this is textbook Supreme Court, so it's not always going to go exactly this way. Sometimes the Supreme Court will use these, and sometimes they won't. They're the Supreme Court. They can kind of do whatever they want. But it is so ingrained to use these three tests that they're at least going to stick to the signposts. So by knowing the wording, you're going to be able to figure out where they are in the process. So first, what are the standards of review? Well, about 100 years ago, the Supreme Court started coming up with a series of tests to figure out whether a law was constitutional or not. And over time, they've developed some more tests to kind of streamline the whole process. Now, the three standards are weak scrutiny, which is usually called rational basis, and I'll get into why. Intermediate scrutiny, and everybody's favorite, strict scrutiny. And of course, this being the Supreme Court, there aren't really three tests. There are like 150 tests, because every time you go to a particular type of case, they're going to have some special little rules that apply. But generally, looking at these three different tests are going to give you a pretty good framework of how the whole thing works. Now, the bigger question is, why are they used? Now, right across the street is the U.S. Congress, and the U.S. Congress is here to write laws, not the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court knows that. So they tend to be a little bit careful about stepping on Congress's toes if they don't have to, which is why they've set up this system. This system allows them to do sort of a minor review of laws if the law doesn't really get into anything too major. They can review the law, but maybe without their reading glasses. Whereas if the law gets into a really significant right, they can dig into it deeper and really decide whether it needs to be overturned or not. Sun's going down over the Capitol. Pretty.